Republicans win a majority this November compares the nation's financial meltdown to an ant. So in our fourth story tonight, what do his fellow Republicans do to distance themselves? They agree with him. The president today, not quite. It began with an interview on Monday, reported yesterday, in which House Republican leader John Boehner was asked about the Democratic Wall Street reform bill after lamenting the Democrats' general, destruction of America, blah, 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 blah.
They're snuffing out the America that I grew up in. And I think I went there because my job and our job as a generation is to make sure that those opportunities that are available to us are available for our kids and grandkids. And it's not going to happen if they're imprisoned under a mountain of debt, regulations, and bigger government.
Does that extend to Wall Street reform, regulatory reform?
This is killing an ant with a nuclear weapon.
Sir, Dan Aykroyd wants his cliched caricature back. First, snuffing out the America he grew up in under two-term Republican President Eisenhower in 1959 when John Boehner was 10. The richest Americans paid 87% income tax, more than twice what they pay under that socialist wealth redistributing President Obama. A so-called nuclear weapon, which has actually been roundly criticized for not doing enough to rein in the excesses that caused the financial meltdown, passed the House late this afternoon. It might have passed the Senate before the 4th of July as well, except that first, Republicans objected to ending the bank bailout early, which would have saved taxpayers $11 billion. And then because Republican Scott Brown objected to paying for the new regulations with a tax on big banks and hedge funds. Republicans instead put most of the burden on the bailout funds, read taxpayers, and a new FDIC tax that would hit small Main Street banks. With almost 10% unemployment and a new survey showing 1 in 10 Americans have moved back in with their folks, and most Americans reporting feeling some impact from the economy, you might expect Republicans to run away from Boehner's remarks, but there was Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell yesterday blocking aid to homeless veterans and their children. Seriously, and unemployment benefits, about which more later in a special comment, including the wisdom of Nevada Senate Republican candidate Sharon Angle blaming unemployment on the appeal of unemployment benefits, which explains, that zero unemployment rate during the Great Depression. Nor did the ranking Republican on the Senate Banking Committee repudiate Boehner's remarks, speaking after a fundraiser hosted by, come on, lobbyists for big banks.
This morning, it was reported that Minority Leader John Boehner said financial reform's too broad. It's basically using a nuclear weapon on an ant. Do you agree with that kind of sentiment?
I agree with it. I voted against it.
Promoting his economic policies today, President Obama was happy to share Mr. Boehner's thoughts.
The leader of the Republicans in the House said that financial reform was like, I'm quoting here, using a nuclear weapon to target an ant. That's what he said. He compared the financial crisis to an ant. He can't be that out of touch. Do you think that the financial crisis was an ant and we just need a little ant swatter to fix this thing? Or do you think that we need to restructure how we regulate the financial system so you aren't on the hook again and we don't have this kind of crisis again?
Let's turn to MSNBC political analyst Eugene Robinson, also associate editor and Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist of The Washington Post. Great. Thanks for your time tonight, Gene.
Evening, Keith. Good to be here.
I think the president's mistaken about how out of touch John Boehner could be, but is he out of touch, or is it really that he's just in touch with only a select few people and corporations as people in this nation?
Well, this time, Keith, I think I'm going to have to go with out of touch, because even if you assume that Boehner is reverting to the traditional Republican stance of essentially representing big business and those folks, to say that publicly, to compare the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression to an ant, that to me just sounds out of touch. That displayed a really tin ear even for John Boehner.
But is this sort of the peril that the Tea Party brings with it? Poll after poll shows Tea Party's out of step with America virtually on every issue while claiming to represent, the real America, which is apparently what John Boehner had when he was 8 years old in Ohio, when we still had Jim Crow and we had 87% tax rates. Have Republicans just not remembered that there are non-Tea Party members of the Republican Party, let alone all those Democrats or independents?
Well, I think they've made a calculation. I mean, leaving aside what I think were remarks that had an impact that Boehner probably didn't intend. He didn't intend to sound that, frankly, stupid in making the ant reference. But leaving that aside, I think a calculation has been made to appeal to the faction of the Republican Party, or the faction supporting the Republican Party, where you can find the energy and the passion. And there's a lot of energy and passion among the Tea Party people, and I think that's a big gamble, the gamble that people are so angry that, that they're just willing essentially to go all out anti-incumbent, anti-Democrat, even at the expense of positions that they support. And I'm not sure that's a sensible gamble, but it seems to be one the party's taking.
One thing about the stupidity of that, remember he was talking at the Pittsburgh newspaper, that's the Scaife Vanity Press, a vanity newspaper in Pittsburgh. Yeah. So you have to be pretty stupid to get the point across to the Tribune Review people. I can't even remember if that's the name of it. But one other thing about the Sharon Angle's statement, I'm going to go into this in depth in a little bit, but she said Americans were spoiled. Spoilage was the term, the way she used this term. And spoilage over unemployment is caused by unemployment benefits. Can you explain to me, based on all of your years covering these things, why would anybody have created unemployment benefits if there had not previously been unemployment?
Well, you keep giving me these missions impossible.
Yes, yes, I do.
And I choose not to accept this one, and of course that makes no sense. It's not just a ridiculous thing to say, but the heartlessness and the lack of any sort of empathy that it implies, I think, if it certainly will, at least to some extent, come back to haunt Sharon Angle, and I suspect that that Harry Reid is feeling a little bit better about his prospects today.
And it didn't occur to her also that unemployment benefits might be part of God's plan, because she's always been invoking God's plan for everything else. So
why would God have given us unemployment benefits if he didn't intend for us to use them?
There you are. You finally got one right. Gene Robinson, Pulitzer Prize winning columnist of the Washington Post and also of MSNBC. Thank you, Gene.
Great to be